We should do a drum session.
Okay. That's just a lot.
Why?
I still have a drum set.
Like,
not a good one, but a good one.
Have?
I've got a Thai birch kick drum. I've got a stage floor tom and rack tom. I've got a
Perfect
snare drum. Got a good cymbals.
That music I've been sending you was done on a Mapex kit.
Oh yeah,
Freeze the Fall band.
I like playing on birch drums. There was a time like, and not that this matters, but like Kevin remembers when I was like, Babinga. Babinga is the best wood on the planet.
Yeah,
it's
Babinga
made of
die-cast stoops. It used to bug the shit out of me.
I didn't understand. I was like, how do you want more?
What does Babinga do? Like, what does that drum sound like in Babinga?
Babinga's like if you made a drum out of steel. Yeah, it's heavy.
Okay.
It's hard.
Steel.
Yeah. Awful. Yeah, it's so loud. The funny part about this was now all the dream kits I used to have, all the dream kits, like the DWs and the masterful things, all the stuff that I thought would be the most amazing thing, we would bring them in a studio and I would be the asshole all the time because it's like, what the fudge?
Why is this so loud?
We were getting like beach ball tones out of this Babinga kick drum. It was way too long. It was way too loud. And it makes trouble everywhere else in the room.
Interesting.
And it's like, oh, I've caused all this chaos, but it's pretty, like it sounds nice in front of you if you want to be as loud as and not care about anybody else.
No.
If you came to actually blend, oh my gosh, it was horrible.
Like the principles were wrong. That was the thing that bugged me about it. It's just one of those like you like and
when I'm hard and dark.
Well, okay. So this is one of those things that I always found really wild listening to drummers talk about the things that they wanted. It's like, oh, so you just want to destroy the thing that the thing is. Like,
yeah, I'd like to.
So you want this thing to resonate. And then I always found it fascinating too that all you guys went to like Remos.
We love Remos. Shut up.
Remos where the tone is in the drum head, which is the dumbest thing in the world. You pay all this money for a drum. The drum is supposed to be the thing that's resonating, and then the heads amplify the resonance, right? And you can pitch the resonance to work sympathetically.
You're talking about like with the stuff on the edges?
Well, no, like that's fine. It's just to like control, but like a Remo head, if you tap it, it goes boom.
Oh, so it's got its own resonance.
It has its own pitch.
Okay.
Evans is like, it's a clock.
So is the other one.
Which is funny because like as a drummer, you like you know how you like when you're playing an instrument, any instrument, you like I feel like this is resonating and reacting and doing what I want. And I feel close to it. Mm-hmm. And that's what Remo was like for drummers. And then you get to the studio and it's the complete opposite. You want a dead slap. You want like all the things we thought were good.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like
he's right. I loved Remos to play on, but Evans were better to track on.
So would Remos be a better like performance kit because you don't get a room necessarily to let the drum breathe? Like I'm literally trying to get as much tone off that drum as possible, and I'm only an inch away from the head.
Yeah,
most drummers tend to think like, oh, I want to control all these things, and then like because okay, so it's like thick shell drum. Okay, it's very tight sound. Okay, I'm gonna get die-cast tube because it's gonna dampen the resonance. I'm gonna get these things to dampen. I'm gonna tape stuff and dampen. But then they pick a head that is like anti-dampening.
Yeah, okay.
I found it really weird. And then
we get sucked in by the marketing too and all that stuff. But like the Remo generation, like that was the stuff where like it depends what kind of drummer you're using, like for what kind of band. Like like that generation was the big band stuff. Like resonance was like we were not close miking anything. We were not smacking it with our shoulder, right? It was all like picking up the nuance and playing like Buddy Rich and all these little tiny ghosts. But now you get to a big rock show and nobody's doing that. They're all playing with their shoulder and they're whacking it.
Throwing baseball bats.
Exactly. And so it's like if it's just like anything else. It's like what is the mic that you're looking to pick up the sound? It's just that we probably as drummers we're picking bad stuff.
No,
sometimes.
It's from the wrong end of it. Like it's like with cymbals and stuff like that. Okay, so like you hit a cymbal, bam. What happens to the sound?
Goes straight up
that way,
into the vocal mic.
Absolutely. Like
I see what you're saying.
You're hitting the cymbal, and like you think you've hit this thing here that you're hearing this way, right? So like you're getting the opposite of the force that's actually been ejected out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go and you buy things, you go and buy these things that are like massive and thick, and I want to hear it and blah blah blah. but it's just you're creating a huge problem elsewhere.
Traded in all my cymbals for like my crash cymbals and stuff for softer like Evo paper thin, because I started to realize like I'd been
all the good drummers do that.
Yeah, all the good drummers. And that's the problem is like there's the people that you were inspired by, right? Like let's say Travis Barker or something.
Yeah, where it's like you can stop bullets with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's made of trash can lids, and it's because he's hitting the absolute badonkadonk out of the thing. But it's like, if I'm going to be gentle to you in a room and work with you on the vocal mic and not make everybody's life harder, it's and what was that thing? We heard that from tracking too. It was like snares and kick 100%, crashes 60%.
Go 10.
Well, yeah,
because no drummer can play 60. Like, I'm sorry.
Just one or nothing.
What? We totally can.
Mic right now. Who's behind the camera today? Shoot. Just kidding.
He's right.
Just kidding.
He's absolutely right.
Okay, hold on. You pull up your thing. Welcome, everyone. I think this is episode 35 or something like that. We've got a special guest today, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi there. I'm Michael Gannett.
Hello, Michael.
I'm this gentleman's brother over here.
If you can't tell.
And we were in a wonderful band called FEO together.
Mm-hmm.
And life has changed, and now I'm sitting on a podcast with you gentlemen.
And what do you do in the day that makes you or let's say have a voice in the content space? Talk to me about your day job.
My day job is I own a marketing company now called Anthem Image Marketing, anthemimage.com if you want to go. So I take a lot of the stuff that I learned through music and things that I learned working with person I think is the best photographer I've ever worked with is Jamie Vedras. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Jamie.
We can put some Jamie Vedras up. Yeah, don't copyright me, bro. It's all love, Jamie.
It's all love, buddy.
Links in the description.
And there's always been a bit of a relationship. Jamie was a photographer in the band days with us. Mm-hmm. He's currently working out of Nashville with Aaron Goodvin.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
He is absolutely kicking butt and taking names. Shout out to you, Jamie Vedras. And yeah, so for me, there was always a bit of a connection between visual and music. We loved doing photo shoots and video. And I tried at an early age to try to grab a camera and try to take some video of what we were doing on tour or something. And I didn't do it well at the time. Is what it is.
The thing I've realized, just to like jump into that conversation, is like even like with my first videos, I expected it to look a certain way. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand that there's like thousands of dollars of cameras and lighting and like teams on that. So there is a beauty in like doing the thing and just getting it out. We talk about that a lot, to do the thing, but I totally vibe with what you're saying. But anyways, keep going.
I like that. Well, yeah, there's the technical side that you have to delve in with your whole heart, and then there's the vulnerability, the being on camera, the willingness to talk and make a fool of yourself if you need to. So for me, all that stuff kind of scratching the same itch, which was making something, releasing it, performing in a certain way, and getting an audience reaction. So for myself, after leaving FEO, went into sales for a good long time, fell in love with marketing. I was like, I like that way better than doing sales. And it gave me the ability to sort of tell a story visually, whether it was with photography or videography or graphic design or something like that. I got to be an artist. I got to try stuff, and I got to use it to help people do well with their business and delve into their dream. And so that kind of vibed with me on a certain level of being able to tell stories again and be a creative person a little bit, but also be someone who kind of helps people live their dream success story. So
I love helping people get rich, man.
It's a good thing.
Cool feeling.
Oh, it's beautiful. Just see you later, day job, and let's do something fun.
Yeah,
so.
But we've been talking about that. Like when you can do something for yourself and the affirmations are there, like people are willing to give you trust in their business, like in their business. It's like, man, like there's nothing cooler. You know what I mean? That's
a big one. You're letting somebody else tell your story in a lot of ways with, anything, video, photography. You're trusting somebody else to tell it's a lot like when we used to do songwriting for someone else. And we used to say we'd put on a different hat. And I liked that a lot. I always liked being able to put on a completely different hat and go, okay, today we're country writers, or today we're punk rock writers, or we're pop ballad guys. That's a lot of trust that someone puts in you to be the visual representation of what they do. And that means a lot to them. That's their baby. That's their life. And yeah, it means a lot that people would let you do that sort of thing. And it's also good because we get to kind of come in as the customer and kind of tell them, hey, this is what I see you have so far. This is what's coming across. This is what's noticeable, and this is what I'm getting. Is that what you were trying to say?
Mhm.
And a lot of times it's no, that's a 10-year-old idea. That's not who we are today. And so then you get to help them try to figure out what that is and all the elements that come with it. So
Well, that sounds like a blast, man.
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
You look like you're sitting on ideas. What were you looking for here? You were looking for something here, and you look like you were full of ideas.
I'm gonna be honest. I was trying to just turn this logo away.
Oh,
Starbucks is coming after us.
Yeah. No, that was great, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate you coming here and hanging out with us
My pleasure, gentlemen.
in our little tiny studio.
Yeah.
One day we'll have butlers.
We get butlers, do we? All right, I'm here for that.
Bannock could do that.
Bannock could do that, yeah. Let's get into this show, y'all. Let me pull this up. Usually have it on a whiteboard out of the camera, but I didn't have that today. So we're talking about mixing drums out of the gates. Kevin was challenged to do a drum session, which I think is dope.
Well, no, what you said was you should learn how to not suck at drums. That's what was said.
Thank you.
That's a great way of saying that.
You could not suck at drums. It would take you about a month. It's like, yeah, okay. That's fair.
But like, what does that have to say about like room treatment and everything? Or is it just more about...
Well, it's like I would assume there's like, I think every time you put a microphone on something in a space, there's things that you have to consider.
Yeah.
And I think like being able to consider those and get the result that you need at the end of the day is probably what he's referring to.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Because I can pretty much guarantee he goes into any room and does whatever he wants.
Yeah.
But you have to understand the principles of what's happening. And I don't think I do.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like, I think I can put mics on some stuff.
I can have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
But like actually doing it and getting the tones I want.
And understanding the route to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the pathway there, I think, is like, I mean, decades of experience, right? But like I think sometimes when I've done drums, I'm just so happy that they're in phase that I don't really think about better. I don't really think about what could happen. Like, what do I have right now and where could it go and what's the methodology of getting there? Because like, for me, it's like, okay, well, I'll track in. Usually the environment is some sort of like haphazard thing. I don't have access to all the things that I would want to grab to input correctly. You know what I mean? Because like
all the Neumann mics or all the...
Well, not just mics, but Breeze comps. Like I would love to be able to track in with that and then run it that way and not have to worry about things later. So in my head, it's like, okay, well, I don't have the best of X, Y, Z, but I'm going to try and do this later. So I'll do this stuff with this in mind. Whereas being able to understand that like, okay, this is what I'm getting and I'm going to get it right now. Like whatever I need to do to get the thing that I want at the end now. You know what I mean? And that part.
You don't know how to get there.
Well, not every time.
Not practically or whatever.
Not to control every particular thing that might change and what I would need to do to react to either overcome or to utilize.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I have a question for both of you then. And you just went, so we'll go with Mike first. What is it that gets you excited about like a mix that has drums in it? Like what about the drums are you looking for? That could be as a drummer or a consumer.
Audible
would be nice to start with. Could we start there?
Yeah.
I love this is probably just a selfish thing, but I for me it's that you guys have said it I think before, it's that is there clarity between the drums and the voice? And is there enough of both of those to really make me feel like I've just been punched in the stomach? That's a really hard balance to do. And it's not always everybody's cup of tea perhaps, but like for me, I'm like, if the vocals are coming through in such a way that the drums and them are sort of cooperating, and this is the selfish thing coming from the singer who drums.
Fantastic, yeah.
That's kind of where, and it's like, not that there's not great guitar places and everything, but everything kind of works around that central pillar. Yeah. And it's not like I want either of those things to be all that fancy, but that clarity and that presence and that impact, that's a tough one. I like hearing those kind of things work in tandem when something comes in and the vocals are as much of something that I'm paying attention as the drums. That's I don't really want to be drawn to the drums more than the voice, I guess. I like, we always go back to that classic example of Paramore Riot, but it's not just her voice. She has a great voice.
Yep.
She has an amazing voice, but it's that that drive that those things create, that pop sensibility that has that top 40 element totally covered, and now you can just add the artistry around everything else because it just works. You can get away with some pretty crazy ideas, I think, if your mix is centered around voice and drums.
Wow.
That was very well said. Yeah, that was. Yeah. You know, it's incredible. And like, I don't know if it's a feather in the hat for us or like for things that we've learned over the time, but when we mix, we go drums then vocal.
Oh.
So it's kind of interesting. Like, or at least I've been doing that lately. And I think you told me that. So that's where I was going with that. But
that's great.
But it's interesting because like, you're right. You kind of need the two to dance as if they are actually performing together and they're responding from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't get that, if you just have like the response as a metronome, then it's like all you're trying to do is just sit on top of that. And then you don't have like energy from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a drummer that's like a performer, like Buddy from Riot or like a lot of drummers these days, like that would fuel a vocalist.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many shows have you been a better singer because the drummer behind you is fire?
100%.
Right? Like the whole show gets energy.
And we've had some great drummers that it takes a lot to make your singer, especially if he does drum. That's not always the case in a lot of bands. But for me to have that confidence to go, okay, I can switch off worrying about the drums, like Adam Rosner, Lewis Mate, like those guys are just like monsters clubbing it. I'm not worried about those guys not jiving with what's happening in the background. I'm not worried about them not keeping the energy up or trying to duck under things. It's really quite helpful to have that drum part just I can let it sit on their shoulders and it's good. I can just focus on singing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I imagine that's probably not a wrestle that most singers have to think about too much, but
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins does.
Yep.
Dave Grohl does.
Yeah.
Buddy from the Eagles. What was his name?
Wow. I'm going to fail on this one.
Yep. He'll probably copyright us if we say his name. Don Henley.
Don Henley. Thank you. I just lost my musician card. I'm not allowed to play anymore.
That's fine.
That's fine.
I'm done.
The Eagles.
What do you look for?
Huh?
What do you look for in a drum mix? What gets you excited?
So for me, I've always thought that drums should sound and feel the way that they do when you're standing next to it.
Mm.
So like I've never been like I've drummed, but I'm never really the drummer. And I've noticed that like being behind a drum kit is one thing, but standing right beside a drum kit is another.
Mm-hmm.
And like the way that you feel it in your chest and the way that your ears kind of compress over things, that's what I've always loved about drums.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this idea of like there's something very like intense about a drum kit and complex and it's like it should hit you kind of deep, if that makes sense. And it's like I quite like it, and I think that like good drums are essential. Not just like nice. I think it's like essential. It's like the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever you want to call it. It's like if you don't have a solid foundation, and whatever that looks like, it can be any type of style, it can be any type of thing, but like if the foundation isn't set, well then you're screwed later when you're trying to place an organ or something like that. Like if you don't have that solid foundation, well, you just shouldn't build. You just shouldn't do it because there's no point. And that's like for me, like if you get that big impactful thing that the rest of the mix or the rest of the band and the rest of the song can kind of rest on, then you've got something. You know what I mean? Like you can, I don't know. That's always what I've seen in it. It's like if you can feel it the way that you feel it if you're standing next to a drum kit, which is almost like kind of please stop. Like it's just on the edge of like
it's almost too much.
Almost, yeah. Just where it's just like whoa, okay.
Like I gotta give my ears a break here, kind of. I got you.
Not like abrasive, but like whew, this is taking up all the oxygen. You know what I mean? Because it does feel that way. It feels like all the air around you is moving, and it's just like if you get that from a mix, like oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
See, like mine kind of blends into the two. I need the snare drum and the voice to like play with each other, like complement each other. But I need enough space between the drums and the vocalist to still hear like the resonance of the drum. If that makes sense. And reverb's one thing, man. Like I get that, but like those DW drums, man, those like where they do the different wood for each tom so they resonate more. like I know that's there, and if I can't hear it, then I'm upset. And I like a thuddy, dry drum, but like it should have some body to it still. I think, and I don't think that you need to sacrifice that to get a vocal up. We've figured that out enough. Yeah, we've been doing some music.
I like it.
We've been inspired, Mike.
I can tell you had some heady conversations on this.
Yeah, just like I don't know, it being able to do that and have them interact correctly is like super cathartic.
Well, it's kind of like what you're saying. Like drums are so intrusive. Like if I had my neighbors can't hear my quad, but I guarantee you they could hear a drum kit. You know what I mean? And so it's like it kind of has to have a little bit of that naturally, or it's not realistic. If that makes sense. Like the drums are kind of buried or not. Like you know what I mean? Or it sounds like we're in a shitty club. Yeah, like the ones we used to play in.
Well, and it can't just be peeking through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the one thing that I like how I used to mix. It was really tough to not get it so that they're just peeking through. Like you want to have some body to a drum. You want to have some length to the note of each one. And you can overcompress and just get like I remember there was this guy who used to mix a lot of stuff back in our era. And one of the tricks that he used to use to get a snare drum to peek through is he had a cross stick sample. And he would put that on top of every one of his snares. And that cross stick will just help it peek right through.
Interesting.
And I get it because rhythmically you need to peek right through, but you're only getting, right? You get no, whoa.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always kind of like, you need all of it. You need it to peek through for sure, but you don't want to just see a drummer be like, hey guys,
it's a good look.
I'm over here. Drum. Hi, I'm a drum. Or like just obnoxious low end and no body, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to know that drum has a set of frequencies to it. It's not just a beep. And to get that to happen in a way that is natural sounding, really hard. Well, classically, really hard, I think.
I follow. So now, can y'all, especially you, Mike, because I know you'll be able to, can you hear when there's like too much sample in a mix?
I mean,
because here's the thing, right? Like Bobby Huff did a really good video on this, y'all. David Bendeth has a new drum pack out called Drum Shots, I believe. Stunning, y'all. It's got some side stick in it too. It's got some stomps in it.
It's dope.
But the idea is that like I was doing a mix for my friend Fry the other day, and everything sounds good, and then you mix in the guitars, and it's like the snare drum just doesn't peek through anymore. So when I go and I turn up the top end on the EQ, now I get more hi-hat, and I don't want that. So now I go and grab one of the Bendeth samples of a snare drum that's got like just a disgusting amount of top end, and I just kind of blend that in. But I don't want to insulate against the drummer. I want to reinforce what the drummer's playing, if that makes sense, right? So I honestly think that there's a difference, or that you can feel a difference between like, because this is where I got to watch my words, right? Because the Bendeth snare was recorded with multiple microphones, multiple snare drums even. And so that is like a multi-mic setup, but in the multi-mic setup that I have for the drum kit, it's like a little bit of a different situation. So I think you can tell when like you hit a drum and it responds in all the room and all the microphones with how they sound with the toms versus like this perfect snare drum that's the sample. So I honestly think that you can tell the difference if there's too much sample bled in or like mixed.
Should be able to.
Yeah. But that's where like it just comes into the reinforcement. Like, yeah, the snare drum sounds amazing, but I just want the top end of it. I just need enough where that top end sticks through, and I'm not replacing the drummer. I'm not replacing his heartbeat, but I'm supporting it. I'm helping him get his voice across. Or whatever. Does that make sense?
I think that's good because like a lot of us drummers don't know. Like sometimes I think, at least in my experience, a lot of drummers we're not talked to like we know mixing.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And like you guys are really good at that. But I think that sometimes we don't know what we're doing is mucking anything up. And I'll notice a sample, I'm going to say poorly used much more than I will. I'm noticing this as the sound of the snare drum is a sample as opposed to it's not. I notice mixers that use parts that a drummer will play, and the dynamic response of that sample is just, I'm like, oh, this is clearly either programmed or this is sampled, because it's not that kind of a roll has a bit of a feeling to it. And I'm not hearing that come across. It's sounding, it's very linear. They're getting better at that kind of thing right now, but I'll notice that way more. It's the performance of a part that shows the hand of the sample. I think a lot more than I'm noticing bad samples, I guess.
Interesting. So I guess what I'm talking about, the drummer I'm talking about is like one of the most hired Fiverr drummers. So he's obviously talented. So I guess in that situation, I am just trying to emphasize what he's up to, right? Whereas it sounds like you might be saying like in situations where that's not the case, maybe people are depending too much on it. Is that kind of what you're getting at? You can hear that, or
well, you're basically saying if it's making the performance unnatural.
Yes.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a bandage. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be something where you're trying to force a performance that never happened out of it. Does that make sense? Or not never happened, but at least, does that make sense?
I'm blown away. How's the drummer dropping all the knowledge today? Yeah, this is wild.
Yeah, no, that's great.
I'm just joking.
We have minds too, Jesse. You know, no. It's honestly, I think that's the thing. Is a lot of drummers, we start out with our own sets of misconceptions, honestly, about the mixing world. We don't come from that space at all. So this is my experience. We tend to have a lot of when you start your career of like mixing or performing on stage or recording an album or something, I think you have a lot of concerns that are like, this doesn't sound like me. This doesn't sound like my drum sound, or this doesn't sound like the drums that I've heard in reference that I'm trying to emulate as a player. And that just comes from a lack of us, at least myself, being in the mixing world and understanding what any of those things are, that I can't just pick a drummer off the list and go, I love this drum set, I emulate with this. What I play will sound like that. You have to be very adaptive. You have to be a bit realistic in, okay, how does my performance sound? Who am I mixing with? What room are we in? What set am I playing? What album is this? And that stuff just, honestly, that only comes with doing it a bunch of times, where you start to realize, oh, I can't force a square peg in a round hole on this. I have to react with what's around me, and I have to be on a team with the guy mixing and not at war with him to bend to my will. I'm here to do a job, and I have to trust a little bit. And that's a humble thing. A lot of us, we try to get good at drums, and we try not to be humble in order to get there. We try to just, be confident and get yourself out there. But it's like, and that works for a lot of like learning applications for drums. It helps you to have confidence and learn parts. But I don't think it has a very good application in the studio. I think it makes it harder. And it will make that experience with that mixer. You'll get a better result. You'll have a better experience. You'll get asked for more stuff. It's just like a gig. It's if you're able to make it a little bit less about your own performance and your own self and who am I serving in this capacity, I think your job gets better. You get known as a drummer more. People like to work with you, and it's because you're respectful of, there are a few other players in this scenario other than me. And it's good to hear these kind of conversations, because I don't think drummers get a lot of feedback from the mixers, because I think a lot of times they are sort of like, we either know or we have absolutely no idea. And so,
well, with drummers, it tends to be a bit of an identity thing.
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't say that with drummers.
Oh, everybody.
With everyone it is.
Yeah.
I need you to know it's me playing guitar before you see me playing the guitar part kind of thing.
I've got my particular thing that
I've got my sound.
Yeah. Your guitar tone. So specific. And
the funny thing, like for me, for guitar tones, the thing that I always struggled with was finding an amp that I liked. Because the thing I realized eventually was like, oh, what I like from records has microphones on it.
And microphones have a sound too.
Yeah. And it was one of those like, oh, I'll never get that. No amp will ever do that. And that's why when the Kemper came out, I was like, oh, sweet. Microphones. So then I can hear it the way that I wanted to hear it, because I heard it off of records. But when I was looking for regular amps, it was like, oh, what the hell are these things? Why do they do this? Why? And then you put a microphone on it, and you only capture like a little bit of a range of it. But it's kind of the similar thing for drums. It's like, you guys don't ever have to come across the thing of like, okay, what does this sound like if a 57's on it? What does that mean?
Right? I don't know.
Like, and so that's just one of the things that I don't think drummers get talked to about, because it's not a thing that most drummers get to.
No.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking about like the Freeze the Fall sessions right now too. And so like if it's 6 hours to do a drum session for one song, and I still have to go and do all the engineering on that as well, like I don't know how long I could sit in a room with a drummer that I just sat in a room with for 6 hours. You know what I mean? Especially if I have to do all the meticulous editing. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just missed a lot of that, just like by structure or something. Because like if we're playing guitar, man, I could be in the control room watching you edit and play guitar.
I just wonder if like the engineer or like the dynamic there is viewed as like an adversarial one. Like the drummer's trying to maintain an identity, and the producer engineer guy is trying to create a song, and it's like immediately.
Yeah, interesting.
Because like
y'all got to work with your producers, or don't hire them. If you don't want to work with them, don't hire them.
Yeah, if you don't like what they do, then don't do it.
Yeah.
But like
trust them.
The combative nature of that, of just like this idea that like I'm trying to be me, and the engineer wants you to be you, because the more you are, the better we can capture it. You know what I mean? Like the more of like your naturalness that comes out of it, but you also can't destroy the song. Like he's like you have to be kind of guarding what the song needs, or what will happen when microphones interact with each other or whatever. And it's like, I think they're viewed as in opposition to each other rather than together.
Okay.
And that kind of bums me out a little bit.
Yeah.
And you struggle with the first dragon that you have to attack. Like you like, because that's the thing. I had a lot of anxiety tackling parts in a studio, because there's like, okay, I nailed every part, because I have to basically hold this together for a 3-minute song, 2-minute song, whatever. And I have to hit all the parts the way I like to. I can't biff anything. I can't miss a tom hit somewhere or ghost something I didn't mean to. I have to hit all these things in the right way. You're kind of wrestling with your own self, I'm sure. And you guys as mixers would probably say the same thing, that you're trying to get the technical stuff. And so we're all kind of fighting our own little thing that we have at the front, and we're probably not thinking about the song as a whole all that much, or at least we should be more.
Also, I don't know if you've had this, but like, what does a drummer have in their headphones?
Ants.
So hold on though. I honestly
Drums.
think that this speaks a lot to. I'm starting to uncover a little bit of things. I think this speaks to you guys' studio experience, because nowadays, like pre-production, you have the whole record done in digital form before you even start tracking drums. So you've got a digital playthrough. You've got like a drum pad with your fills on it, how you want them to be. You might have even tracked your drum kit a little bit to get those sounds out of it. And you're playing guitar along with now a simulated drum track that you've played to rehearse and get everything refined. And then that's what you're playing along with.
I mean, technically that's what we did, but then we went to a dude. Like for the second record, it was like a professional drummer, right? With Ben Phillips. And then it was just like, okay, well, none of this matters. Like I had all that stuff made out, but it's like a dumb guitar player playing drums.
Yeah.
And like,
see, and that's what I'm saying. They would have the part like the way they want it.
The drummer would have already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
That's a little weird though.
Yep.
Like, I don't know. I just personally would want to have it be like guidelines and then let them perform.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you're just trying to replicate over and over and
over.
over.
Well, a lot of the writing gets done in studio now though, right? So you're working on the whole project together. And like, to like, this is a different scenario because I don't know Jordan's process of being in the studio, but his new thing with drummers is like he's the recording engineer. His drum guy's in the studio, and Jordan's in the studio with the drummer telling him what he wants just from like a response thing, like a performance thing.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And so he's a bass player. He owns the studio. He's the mixing guy. The drum tech's inside recording. He's working with the drummer. So he's just saying like, I will respond to you and we will get that. And that's a part of that pre-production kind of setup.
Oh,
right?
that I like a lot.
Yeah.
And that part was nice because at that time where we used Ben Phillips, we didn't have some bands, they come fully assembled and you have a drummer and it's their shot. You're all in this equally. You're all doing this together. And at the time, we didn't have a full-time drummer in
we're
Feo.
kind of in between drummers.
And that we came across using a professional quite by accident in that respect, or out of necessity. But
also we just didn't know it was the thing.
Yeah, we didn't know we could do that.
We had no idea that was just a thing, and it was great.
You'll let us hire a monster like Ben, and he'll just devastate this track. He'll do great.
One of the best drummers on the planet is just for hire.
And for like affordable costs.
Yeah, for a reasonable amount of money.
Yeah. Makes no sense. Most people don't realize that's even available. And I think if we learned anything, it was their relationship, like the mixer's relationship and the drummer. They usually work on other stuff. So they're used to talking to each other. They're used to understanding what the songs need. And those drummers in particular have done so many different versions of so many different things that they start to learn things that we didn't really realize. Like, oh, maybe that bass drum pattern that I've picked is kind of
silly,
vocal intrusive. Maybe it was too much. I was trying to be too much of a thing, and they'll try different variations to give you a different feeling. Whereas when you're kind of stuck in your own songwriter bubble, it's like if you wrote something and you're having somebody else edit it because you're probably not the best. You're too close to this to edit it. Was how it felt using Ben, because Ben got to think like a different person, a person who was smarter at me from seeing it from different angles. And Kevin's right. I think you said something where it was like, I just would like to see that person. Once you recognize that that person was a fully actualized professional, I'm like, you do something here. Like me directing you, I could give you slight direction, like the part doesn't go like that. But as far as the performance goes, I'd like to hear your take on this. Well, it was really cool.
We would always do these like last takes, which were always going to be like the wild one. And he would just be like, okay, just let her buck on the third or whatever take it was. But whatever the last one was, just be a little silly. And that was almost always the one that we used.
I bet.
Because it was just like, all right, restrained is cool, but like you're a competent, amazing musician that has insight into XYZ. Just do your thing.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to worry about the engineering side of it because he was the engineer.
Yeah.
He had his space created to catch his drums. And it was like, oh, okay.
That's the nice thing with Glenn here that I do with Fry's stuff. He sends it all in and it's just done. Like I just have to mix it. And he even sends me a sample mix, which actually sounds pretty good too. But it's just like, it's such a neat world to be in because again, like you're looking for the performance. And like even in today's world, like Ryan Trin got picked up off of Instagram because of his performance, right? Like it's so available. It's so available now. But anything else, music or drums you guys want to talk about?
I don't know. Drums are cool.
Drums are cool. What can we be doing?
Drums really cool.
Yeah. What can drummers do for you guys? If you're a mix, what are we doing that needs to...
and learn how to take a punch.
Learn how to take a physical punch, like an actual punch?
No, like a metaphorical punch.
Metaphorical punch.
Yeah, because like...
Our ego.
I remember the first demo I ever recorded for somebody, we did drums in my dad's garage. And actually it sounded pretty banging in there. With samples, it sounded really good. And heavy on the samples. And we're playing a ballad, and I'm watching this thing, and I'm like, I think something's wrong. Like the meters aren't lighting up, like nothing's really like gain staging. And I look over and he's like tapping cymbals, like may as well be with like dimes and like the little toms and stuff. I'm like, yeah, man, it's a quiet song, but you still gotta like perform. Like you still gotta give this to me. We'll make it sound quiet later, but like you still gotta like hit the thing and make it do the thing, right? And yeah, so I would say like, have a little confidence. And see, he got really upset by me telling him to play more. So that's where the learn how to take a punch thing plays into that.
It's hard. I was not great at receiving criticism when it came to the world of drums. Like I really had to trial by fire there with a lot. I got told a lot of times I was too loud, hit too hard. But my taste in drummers kind of changed over the years.
You all need to grow up out there if you're saying that.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
comment, like, subscribe if you like loud music.
I don't think anybody's got a bad, like, nobody's mad at the kick drum for being too loud. It's always
never
the
kick.
Yeah.
It's just the cymbals. That's the problem.
Yeah.
If you're being told that you're getting too loud, it's the abrasive stuff.
Well, that's
even
the big
snare
one.
drum. Even a snare drum, like it goes boo. It doesn't go. So, yeah, I'm a scientist. But that's why
the technical terms.
That's why, like, when they're talking about those screens for things, right?
Oh yes.
I've had many talks with churches about this stuff because it's like I don't understand why it's still like yeah, you get rid of the abrasiveness, but like the air is moving. It is what it is. It's going to be loud.
We put microphones in a nightmare box.
Yeah.
Why is it still loud?
Like,
or like the top isn't covered, man, and like that stuff goes straight up and then out.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think like it's not that you're too loud. It's just that the cymbals that you're choosing, when you hit them the way that you want to, they're going to be terrible.
Oh yeah.
See, and like, but that's got to be tough too, because that's like, I can't afford to have 3 different concert sizes of cymbals.
You don't need them.
No.
The ones that I'm talking about, there's no use for them.
Oh, like if you're saying like if it's a house kid or something like that?
Anything.
I'm just talking about like if Mike's showing up as a drummer, he can't afford to have the quiet cymbals, the medium cymbals, and the loud cymbals.
Doesn't need them. Just needs the quiet ones.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Just 100%. That's it?
100%.
There was a couple...
Like the quiet...
Put a microphone on them, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
There you go, y'all. Put a microphone on them.
Well,
we could use the
thing that changed drumming for...
We should track drums.
We should track some drums. We should have some fun with it. Well, no, it was like someone told me, they were like, look, you're going to want to... We see performance on drums. Like the thing that... Yeah, like you said, no one's watching your kick drum performance. It's not a thing. it's your hands, and everyone is seeing big, my shoulder comes above, and I take a massive swing. It's very cinematic, and I hit my cymbals. And that's what we all kind of got trained on, is that's what looks awesome as drummers.
Kind of got sold that. That's what you need to do as a drummer.
Yeah, it looks big. It looks like that's rock star. That's everything you've ever wanted, right? And I think that a lot of people that I talked to that I know are doing this as a really good job, and they're very versatile, they get hired a lot, are the guys that figured out that you're supposed to look like you're hitting the cymbals at 100, and you're supposed to hit it with the actual because every cymbal, and this is a weird thing too, every cymbal has a tonal point that is just like plucking a string. There's too little and there's way too much. And there's a feedback that happens when you strike a crash cymbal with all of your might. Mm-hmm. And it actually makes a worse sound than, it's like a chime or a gong or a key on a piano. There is a way to strike that in a way that it makes an optimal sound and it sounds the best. And it can't go over that. It physically can't. Mm-hmm. And so what we end up doing to get louder cymbals is we get harder cymbals.
Interesting.
And harder cymbals have a longer decay that you don't want. It's really, and there's that old thing of like, well, Metallica did because that's what we did in the old days with the state, and you needed harder cymbals to go louder because you couldn't hear the amps. Mixing has changed a lot of that in the last 10 years, right? So, but nowadays it's you have to learn how to strike it in a way that you're not overplaying the cymbal, because you're actually creating a negative sound. Mm-hmm. And you have to practice, you have to look like you're hitting those things as hard as you can without being that guy who's breaking them every 5 minutes. There's no advantage to it sonically. And so you have to try to figure out, and that's really weird when you're hitting your kick drum and your snare drum at 100 and you're trying to dial it back on your hands on the crash cymbals, but it is literally physics. Mm-hmm. And it is hard for us to remember that, because that energy, that passion takes over, and it becomes way more fun to hit it with all my might. Mm-hmm. But sonically, like what you're getting, what the sound engineers are getting, like you're right. You either become a sound guy's best friend or his worst nightmare, and I'd rather be his friend. We should
have him do drums when we track drums.
See how good that sounds.
Yeah, man. That's like 3 out of 3. Good job, man. Good job.
Thanks, guys.
Let's get on music. Mike's gonna take my YouTube channel over. He's gonna kick me out of my spot.
Welcome to Mike on the Mic.
Talk to me about spring, y'all. What are y'all doing for spring? How do you spring?
It has sprung.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. We don't usually get spring here.
Yeah, we get wind. And I'm actually surprised it hasn't snowed yet this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
We had the quintessential Southern Alberta. It was May long weekend where everybody usually parties and has a great time, and it always rains.
Yep.
And it did.
I gave up on camping on May long after sleeping in my truck like 3-4 years in a row. It was just too wet, too cold.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
We're all way too optimistic after winter. We're just like, hey, let's do this.
It's finally the long weekend.
Yeah, I think you get sold this story of May long, but like just for where we are, it's always going to rain.
See,
it doesn't matter. You can have a full drought. The only days that it's raining is May.
Oh, dude, we've been in such a drought right now. Like they're water restricting a lot of the farms around here, and like they're doing water share programs and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I asked this because as Mike is coming out to my place for the first time, I never thought I would be the guy like counting down the days till my soil was thawed up so I could start planting in it. It's like a seed. Yeah. And, May long used to be a good time for Jesse back in the day.
Yeah, party
and nowadays, man, I'm excited for summer, but spring is like, it's nice. I like seeing, I've been really trying to take in spring. I don't want to blink and let it go by. Mm-hmm. So I'm really trying to take in like the things blooming. And really trying to appreciate it. And I think it's really, really, really helped my mental health.
That's good.
Being more present.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah.
Wow. It makes a difference. Like winter is way too long here. It is miserable. It's not even myself I do photography for fun. So even when spring happens, it feels like I've had like 6-month cancellation. Like it's not as much fun. Things don't look as nice in the winter. It's crazy. But it's like, spring here, I'm just like, you notice it right away. Like the coulees right now are just so intensely green. Well, I was purple. What are you saying?
I mean, like from like the sky and how it like reflects in there. Remember we used to go for dog walks and it'd be all like purple?
So you get the gorgeous Alberta sky.
Gotta catch it at like 6 a.m. though.
That's dope.
Yeah.
No, I like it. I'm having a good time. I'm going to try to plant an herb garden.
Are you?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm not quite at Farmer Jesse level.
Spring though.
That's right.
Yep.
Gonna try.
Yeah, let me know if I can help.
Yeah, I'd like that. I need all the help I can get.
the thing that I like about it, like now, anyways, now that I'm selling trucks, I deal with a lot of farmers, a lot of people where the weather really matters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Like maybe it's just like my city disconnect thing, but like when you want nice weather, why do you want it? Right? Like for me as an individual who has no real reliance on the weather or like direct understanding of the reliance on the weather. Nice weather is just like an absence of bad. But like
for some people that's profit and that's life. Yeah.
And like hearing farmers talk about like, oh, okay, we're into seeding and like, okay, the rain's coming up. If we get a little bit more of that kind of like, oh, this doesn't just happen to be like, oh, I just don't want
inconvenient.
Yeah. No, this is directly tied to a business, but like food.
Yeah.
Like this, like, oh, okay, well, if weather's bad, like we're screwed.
Yeah. like all this rain right now, man, like it's not gonna, aside from the grass and the trees out right now, it's not gonna do anything for our water systems. There's not enough like ice lock, right? There's not enough like actual runoff from the glaciers and like the frozen water to support all the farming and everything we need to do. So that's crazy.
Yeah, but I don't know. I like knowing that or being a little bit more connected to it because like our business, they need trucks to do all the things, so therefore our business is directly reflected by it.
Yep.
And hearing them talk about it is one of those like, oh right, things are actually important for different reasons rather than just my own selfish not wanting it to be XYZ. Like kind of a little bit of humility, I guess, because like I don't know, I've never really noticed spring the same way. It's like, yeah, you can look at flowers and sweet, great, but like really what I'm asking for is like 22 degrees and sunny.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well,
this is that's the absence of bad. I like that.
Well, it's just a little juvenile, right? Like I didn't, and I won't see a direct correlation the way that they will, but at least being having a bit more understanding of the importance and the connectivity that comes with it. All of a sudden, when I see rain, I'm like, oh, this is nice. Rather than just like, oh, I wish it was sunny outside.
Oh, so you're saying it was like a perspective change and you can appreciate it a little bit more.
Oh, for sure. Well, I noticed it for like a different reason. Because like for me, it's like, I don't mind rain because I like the smell of it, blah, 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 blah. But like our whole world gets, if you have an ideal amount, it's great. If you have an excess, it's horrible. If you have not enough, it's horrible. And it's like, we have a really
sensitive,
balanced, like, oh yeah, it's in a delicate balance, I guess I should say. And I don't know, I've never really viewed it that way as I am this year.
Interesting.
I like it.
See, I had a pretty sweet perspective change recently. And I started thinking about bless you. Sorry. I always skip over your sneezes because I think I'm gonna edit them out and then I don't.
Why would you edit them out? They're glorious.
We call those weekend sneezes.
Yeah.
Sneezing for the weekend.
Oh,
everybody's sneezing.
Ever since I watched that thing on Community, I just sneeze for the
Seriously,
as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh man, I'm definitely letting
Chevy Chase,
letting out those Chevy Chase."
Like, why would I hold it in? Just let it
command a whole room.
Aim for the back of the room.
Your head will explode if you hold it.
Exactly.
You can't do that.
No, I was watching something the other day, and it was talking about this group of people that effectively had moved to like a moon, and they were trying to like cultivate and farm and live off this moon.
Wait, sorry. Roll it back a little bit.
It's an agricultural film.
It's an agricultural film.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it was this like, basically it was like Laura Croft and her village of people that she was like trying to assimilate in. And they were on this like really rocky, really clayey, not earth, trying to like hide from whoever took over Earth. And they were farmers. And it was really, really inspiring. They only had about 10 weeks of growing, which I thought was really weird. And they could only grow a limited amount of food during that time. And that like really made me realize like how much community plays into these things.
Oh,
you know
huge.
what I mean? Especially when all of a sudden, like, what was that spaceship from Star Trek or Star Wars, the big one?
Enterprise?
Oh, if you have to ask whether it's Star Trek or Star Wars.
I never watched any of them, but the Enterprise shows up and all of a sudden you got these like skinheads coming here and they're demanding all your food.
What?
They want all your food.
It's true.
And they say...
I saw this film.
Because they were talking about 10 bushels I think they can make in 10 weeks.
In 10 weeks, yes.
Yeah. And this guy wanted 8 of it. He wanted 8 bushels for his group. He was going to take it all away. And now the community is fucked. They had to figure out a way to fight back.
So they had to find a ragtag motley crew of heroes to try to help them out.
Talking about?
And go on this like Shrek-esque mission.
We're talking about?
Oh, you know this movie?
I do know this.
Do you know this movie?
I'm so mad that we're talking about that movie right now.
You know what I thought was incredible when the second one starts?
Oh my god.
It's very difficult for Jesse and I to hide this from you.
Ugh, that was awful.
Trying to make farming look cool on the moon must have been the hardest project.
Oh man.
The slow motion when she like drops the seeds and it all like...
I'm so mad right now.
Why?
That was an awful movie.
Which one? The first one or the second one?
The second one was worse.
Yeah.
Yes,
They
it
were
was.
both really bad, but the second one was
What did
worse.
you like about it?
Everything.
It was inspiring.
No, it was not.
No?
You should watch The Biggest Little Farm.
Oh, I
You're
watched
looking-
that.
There. That's an inspiring.
But that's not on the moon, though.
I know.
And they didn't have as good a slow motion cameras when they were cutting the straw out of the fields.
You're right.
Because that looked epic.
That'll get the
epic.
youth involved.
Yeah.
Now, if you haven't been plugged in and you don't know this wonderful film, we are talking about Zack Snyder's wonderful 2-part movie.
Rebel. No, 6-part movie.
6-part movie now.
Part? I'm
It's
only
gonna be
watching
6
2.
parts.
I'm
Sign
not
on for
watching
6
anymore.
more movies.
Yeah.
Rebel Moon Part 1 and A Child of Fire.
Yep.
And Rebel Moon 2, The Scar
Giver.
So I wrote down a whole bunch of notes and I accidentally deleted the note on my phone.
Should have.
But
I've got you.
effectively, it was Laura Croft doing the Shrek mission, and she was being invaded by the people from Star Wars. That was the first movie.
Yes.
Yeah,
there's a little bit of...
Because it's like all the people are intruding your swamp. You have to make a deal with the bad guy to get the swamp back. And it's a twisted deal. They're not going to let you have the swamp back anyways. And why didn't they just poison them?
It was a Shrek deal.
That's what I'm saying. It was Laura Croft and Shrek.
It was
She
Shrek.
was Shrek.
It was Shrek.
Did you not pick that up?
No.
Oh, dude, it was a
It
Shrek
was-
story.
It was Seven Samurai. It was...
All of a sudden, there's a dragon,
Oh yeah, there was a dragon.
dragon?
and it falls in love with
And-
the one dude that
well,
doesn't stop talking.
I think it's a griffin. I think it was a griffin.
I'm making
feather-
Shrekisms.
Griffin. Like a feathered dragon. It's in the same realm of same existence plane as dragons
dragons.
would be. If they had had a dragon in this movie, I would have accepted it wholeheartedly and gone, this is what we're doing. We're going with the dragon.
Can I okay. So here's my main problem. My main problem with the farming.
Okay.
Okay. They were only farming grain.
Yeah, I that
Just
made no
grain.
sense to me too.
No other
Only
vegetables.
grain.
Yep.
And like what do you get?
Bread and noodles.
That's it. But even then, like for
Space
bread,
bread.
you need salt.
Yeah, they got lots of sweat.
So what are they doing?
That chick was sweaty the whole movie. There wasn't a scene she wasn't sweaty.
Well, I mean,
Everyone was
she
sweaty.
in space.
Everyone was sweaty.
Yeah, everyone was sweaty.
Oh yeah.
I had a lot of questions about like the logistics of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to cover it, I became obsessed with this film. I love Zack Snyder as a filmmaker. I've been
Do ya?
obsessed with him. Yes, absolutely. I've been
Do
obsessed
ya?
with him.
You love his 2 movies?
I love
You love
movies.
his 2 movies that are good
Come on now.
that
Come
he
on.
didn't really do.
Zach, I hear you. I love you.
Those 2 movies.
Well,
Got it.
who loves 300?
That's
Who
one.
loves Watchmen?
Nope.
Who loves?
Not good.
Well, okay.
The
Well,
series was better.
all right. Well,
Go on.
that's a whole different argument.
Go on.
But anyway, I love Zack Snyder. I
There's
think he's
one other.
wonderful.
What other one?
I think he's wonderful.
Superman.
Oh,
Superman.
Which
Those
yes.
are the
Superman?
only 2 good movies.
which Superman?
Well, he did Man of Steel,
Okay.
and he
was the
did
good one?
Batman versus Superman.
That was not the good
That was
one.
not a good one.
That was a little under. And then, of course, the Zack Snyder, the Snyderverse, bring it back, that sort of thing. So the Justice League movie, because
Wasn't
he
a
had
good
to.
movie.
Well, he had to step away, and then there was the Justice.
Still wasn't good.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay.
Fair
And so
enough.
how did we get onto Rebel Moon? How did that
Well,
come up?
We became obsessed with this, and I gave Kevin, I think, a text message late one night after watching the first Rebel Moon, and I said,
Yeah.
you have to watch this movie, because all I had heard on Twitter was just like all this wonderful stuff, and people were like getting all excited about it, and I was excited about it. And I had heard all these rumors about this thing, that this was like, at one point this was going to be a Star Wars franchisee movie. Like
Mhm.
they were going to greenlight him to do a Star Wars
It technically
film.
was.
Told you it was Star Wars? Yep.
There was a cantina
I
scene.
called it.
And anyway, I became obsessed with this because I watched it and I was like, I can't possibly be registering. This is much worse than I could have ever
It's
feared.
so far worse than what I expected.
And I kept
Like,
expecting it to
so
get
far
better.
worse.
And there's so many points across these 2 films that I think you could talk about and go, like, what was the
There
plan?
was so much like character development space that they did no character development.
And when they wanted,
Zero.
When they wanted to develop their character at all, they told a 2-minute story.
Yeah. Let's
Oh,
do
yeah.
2 minutes of exposition.
Yeah.
We'll visually tell a part of that story in the second film. But don't worry, we'll tease you about this the entire first movie.
And Jar Jar Binks shows up in the second film. So
it's Star Wars.
Anyways,
Jesse can put up a picture for that.
Yeah, I got you. But anyway, so you became obsessed with the film, and you thought maybe you weren't registering the awesomeness of it.
Maybe I wasn't getting it. Maybe things have changed, and I'm old, and I prefer.
I was worried
older
about
movies
that for myself as well. I thought for sure when I saw the trailer, I thought for sure he did it.
Zach is one of those guys in movies that I want him to do well. I don't know why. Kevin probably shares this too.
For him every time, and I'm just like, come
I
on, man.
want him to nail it. I want him to be well recognized. And it's actually kind of interesting too because he's had so many personal struggles that I've really responded to, and I think a lot of him as a human being. I think a lot of him as he's an amazing artist. He's a really good director. And there are so many examples of films in Hollywood that I think were based on pre-existing IP. I don't think there's anyone and this is going to be a bold statement. I don't think there's anyone who's adapted existing IP better than Zack Snyder. Okay. I think when you get something like, and he had to sell the concept of 300 to the studio as well. Yep. But if you take the graphic, oh, absolutely. Or something difficult to adapt like Watchmen.
Yeah,
it's really hard to take like a comic book and have anyone adapt that into something usable. We've seen an enormous amount of terrible superhero movies over the last 10 years. Zach is extremely good at taking existing IP and giving you the film version of that. And I think Man of Steel was a really good example of like, how the heck do I even make this register on a normal scale? And even Batman versus Superman, I think, had a really interesting concept. The opening of Batman versus Superman is like, hey, guess what? Everyone in Metropolis would have experienced that first battle as worse than 9/11. Like the entire city explodes and all the buildings
of people died.
Everyone died, and it would be terrible. And he finds really good character motivations. He finds really good visuals. He's very, very good at this stuff. He's very demanding of his actors physically. So when you hear that Zach's got, this wonderful deal with Netflix where he's going to do this project that is really not grasped by the hands of too much studio. There's no IP behind it. It's just him getting to do what he does best. You get really excited for it. And I think that's where I wanted to share that with my friends and go like, oh my gosh, like I wanted this so bad, but it actually ends up being a movie that's so fun to talk about because it is so bad.
I just can't believe like how hard they tried to make farming look cool and how much time they spent on that.
Now that's like
40
that's almost
or so.
30-40 minutes of farming in slow motion in the second film, not the first film. And that's that. Oh my gosh. I could talk about this movie for hours. Yeah, seeing seeds in slow motion and they milled it. They didn't just get them the grain, they milled it into flour and put it in bags.
The process of it. Which is cool, I get it, but like, not in Star Wars meets Shrek, man. Like, I can watch that in the Little Big Farm.
Yeah, and that's great.
Frustrating. It's frustrating, and it's really fun.
I do want to say that I enjoyed it.
I did not.
Kevin did not.
I was very angry.
Kevin was upset. I believe physically angry was the word you used.
I was angry from the beginning of it.
Were you yelling at the TV?
I was so mad.
What were you mad about? What made it mad?
What made it mad?
What made it mad? Because visually, he does a lot of really cool, expensive things.
Yeah.
Like there are some very interesting ideas. But go ahead.
Well, I'm not again visually. I was in favor of much of the ideas. I can't believe writing some of these things down, and then it got done. That's the thing that I have a hard time with. And
where it was like, yo, we should do this for this long. And it's like, hey, man, like when we're proofing this, you're dumping seeds in the earth for 40 minutes. It's like, yeah, bro, trust me.
So it's going to be great. People have never seen farming like this.
First premise. Spaceship arrives.
Yeah.
Spaceship, massive spaceship. Probably many, many people aboard said spaceship. Okay. Can travel the universe. Stops off at small moon. 10 bushels, whatever, wants 8 of grain only to get back to wherever. They leave.
But he discussed this though. He talked about how their team was like diminished. They were starving away. They all looked real skinny.
Wheat.
They kind of looked like an adversary country that we have right now, which
He
is
looked
kind of
very
funny.
shredded.
They
was
look,
incredibly
but you know how
shredded.
he was shredded.
You know how like over the years when America has their adversary countries and then that's the James Bond villain?
Oh yeah.
They
no,
totally
for sure.
did that in this too.
I
For
swear
sure.
at this studio there were like perhaps like I honestly think there were like old USSR uniforms that they had in the,
That's what I'm
in the
talking
prop room.
about,
They're
yeah.
like, just throw that on and put on like an officer hat, and it's going to look like, you know, Stalin meets Hitler, and what's more of a bad guy than that? And
It's gonna take your bushels.
which is insane because
Also, they weren't bushels; they had bags.
They had bags.
Bushel is just like the weight though.
Okay.
apparently I don't understand
Still-
bushels.
So like
Still, I can't get over the fact that they have the technology to travel through space, and they just need grain.
yeah.
Did you see the engine room that they had going on?
So but hold on though. So they were
Has an
looking
AI
for-
person in it.
An AI person
Oh,
that
right.
they're shoveling coal into,
Right.
I guess.
There's a coal area.
Coal powered.
They got people on bikes.
Yeah, like
So
like, when you write that down,
they were looking for her though. They were looking for Laura Croft
but they
because she was a
weren't.
runaway.
But
That's
they
right.
weren't. They were there for grain.
Well, that was their excuse.
They just found out that this
and they
lady.
bashed that guy in the head with the cane.
Yeah,
It's all coming back
did
to me
that.
now.
That's
It's all
rough.
coming back to me
Yeah,
now.
it kind of comes in waves.
Yeah.
She was an afterthought.
Yeah.
It was,
No, I thought they came there looking for her, and then they
No.
were like, "Oh, by the way, we need food," because
no,
he
they
offered
had no idea
protection.
that they thought that she was dead.
Yeah, they
I
thought
were
she
looking for her.
The
died.
fact that
This
she
whole
came-
movie just changed for me. I
You-
thought they were looking for her the
No,
whole
they were
time.
not.
Honestly,
They wanted some
I've
grain.
watched it multiple times now because
You've watched it
I've
multiple times?
watched both of them
Ah.
multiple times because I am obsessed with it. And questions like this, Jesse,
You need
I
more
had.
things to do.
I need more things to do. When I have spare time, man, do I burn it to the ground? I just torch it.
How?
Because I needed to understand. I needed to watch. And the funny part is there are things in the second movie that like the first movie sets up
Mm-hmm.
that don't matter at all, never address it. That it does but it was interesting. This, you guys will find this interesting, I think.
Okay, lay on us.
So
Doubt it.
I also watched the Joe Rogan interview with Zach.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Okay, I couldn't do that either, but yeah.
And I just got to hear him talk. Like, I don't think I've ever heard him talk for that long off his concept. So there's a bit of an interesting discussion as to how these movies came to be. So basically, he made a arrangement with Netflix, and what he pitched them, get this is interesting. Are you guys familiar with Heavy Metal?
Mhm.
Like,
Like the comic movie kind
oh
of
yeah,
thing?
yeah.
So his pitch was, I want to do this film.
That makes so much more sense already.
Exactly. He was like, it's going to be gory and
With the laser guns and like the actual fighting, like
yeah, like way too much, like griffins and Vikings and spaceships and laser beams, like essentially Thor Ragnarok. But it basically, Netflix heard this concept and were like, can you make it PG-13? And he arranged a deal. I think he probably scored a deal of a lifetime with Netflix on this stuff. He said, I'm going to do something else. What if I make you the PG-13 versions of 1 and 2, but you greenlight later down the road after the release of 1 and 2, I'm going to release the director's cut of 1 and 2, and those will be the full unrated versions of my vision of this movie. Like of Heavy Metal. So there's basically 4 films in development for streaming over the concept. So I think he got paid an unreasonable amount of money for this idea. I guess I would think. But
okay.
Yes, sorry. I know what you're probably going to.
Well, I can get behind that, but I do not think if the story, it's kind of like the Justice League thing too.
At the end of the day, it's still Laura Croft in a Shrek story and
Yes,
fighting Star Wars.
How much
Like,
could it
if it's
change?
Like, so if it's like, okay, well, we still need this grain, but like then when we show the
But now
king,
we're
we
making
see-
beer with it.
Now we're making some
you
beer.
know what I mean? Or like I really don't think that just adding blood and boobs is going to be the thing that makes that a good movie.
There's no way it could. And so I watched it back the second time on both of them, trying to understand, like, okay, where are these cuts? Because I'm pretty used to an editing bay to a certain extent, not to his extent, but like, I'm like, okay, where did you cut?
You'd have
Where
to
are
make
you
an
putting this
entirely
thing
different
together?
movie.
It seems like one movie that we pulled out into 2 different movies and then PG-13'd them all, and none of it makes any sense.
Interesting.
But it still doesn't change the fact that almost all the likable characters die, spoiler alert, and almost like all the usable good actors are almost never utilized properly. All the stories that tease to be the most interesting are never fully shown, despite there being 2 films to show, and they're not short movies.
Oh.
And
Well, everything's in slow-mo. How could it be short?
and it all centers around grain.
Yeah.
This idea of like, oh, well, it's like a Western, like here's the village and they have to defend the villagers.
To me, it's one of those like, I'm going to write a movie about farming. No fucking clue what farming is, though.
So
Never been farming.
I've seen wheat.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, let's get wheat going.
My next argument was like 1 horse and 1 plow to like do the whole moon. That's going to take longer than 10 weeks, y'all. I'm just telling you right now.
I don't, and this is the thing. I think there's a little bit of so this is where my theory comes in. I think Zach being the ultimate IP, bring this material to life guy.
Ultimate?
I would argue, is there anyone that you've seen do that better? There's a question.
We've seen him do it well.
Have you? Okay, I'm going to give you 300 is one of the craziest, least supported, most successful films from a graphic novel that people love. Like trying to bring Frank Miller out. I just don't think that there's anybody else out. So maybe not the best, but is there anyone else that's done that?
The fact that there's Marvel movies.
Are we limited by the fact that like when you book, like say Schwarzenegger, you get Schwarzenegger? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gosh, this movie would have been so enhanced by having Schwarzenegger.
But like if it was Schwarzenegger, but like could act. You know, like I don't know what I'm trying to get at here, but like
I'm sorry, Arnold, that was some shade.
No, it's just like when we do the superhero thing, it's like you get the actor to do the superhero, but now you have that actor.
Yeah.
That's what we're limited to. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I just don't know if there's someone that could fill these like over because like you need the Rock that's not the Rock. You know what I mean? You need like that's kind of the energy you need.
The Pebble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The guy from that last show we were watching for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. You need what's his face?
Reacher.
Alan Richardson.
Reacher.
Yeah. But anyways, keep going.
Oh, I love Al. Oh, yeah. We could have put Reacher in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand. Like it has the capability. I think it has all the right ingredients to be a functional film, but this one is unbelievably derivative of other movies. Like you mentioned, like, okay, we got a female protagonist and it's this is great, but the female protagonist is very unlikable at her story arc. Yeah. She's basically murdered a child.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She's confessing to all her murders now. She's talking about why she's a bad person. She's talking about how she's trying to get away from it or she's hiding from it or whatever, but there's no like super overarching happy story. Yeah.
And then she stops herself
by the people that she was helping double cross someone else.
Yeah.
Like, of course they did.
She murdered a child under peer pressure, and she's not willing to murder her adopted father, not her real father, who had murdered her entire family and village. She was unwilling after he basically pins this murder on her in front of everybody and goes, she did it. She's like, I don't seem to be able to bring myself to kill you, though.
So she was cool with it. Like, what if he didn't double cross her? She was just cool with that.
She was fine with infanticide.
She was like, yeah, I murdered this kid.
That story will never get told.
And let's keep on going. But the fact that she got double crossed, which is what she was doing, is like, oh, how dare they double cross me after I helped them double cross them?
That's so rude. Why would
dare they? They did to me what I just helped them do to them.
It's a tale of vengeance.
And I will not let this stand. I'm going to kill them all. Like, she's crazy. That is not a hero.
Also, by the way, if you haven't watched this movie and you're listening to this, you should probably pause for a second. You should go watch this movie.
I'm doing a great job summarizing it.
He's doing a great job. He's telling you the whole thing. There is a scene at the end where they decide to board the enemy vessel. And they board it, and they come aboard, and they present themselves. They put blood on their uniforms. They've dressed as the enemy. They come on board.
To double cross them again.
Well, they are received by medics. Mm-hmm. They're received by medical professionals
who they kill,
whom they murder in the elevator.
Yeah.
Instead of, they don't knock them out, they just kill them.
Yeah, we won't need you in the future.
you're not necessary. I'm like a lot of these motivations for any of the decisions as you go along the way just don't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. Because they were just doing their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were just medical personnel on a spacecraft.
I'm sorry, lady who's bleeding.
On Star Wars.
Like, what are we talking about here?
They were working on the Death Star. Yeah. That's where they were.
Yeah, but they weren't the one doing the thing. Like, they're medics.
And okay, so the Star Wars of it.
Okay.
So did you catch this? So they have a lightsaber in this film,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's hot, I guess.
That's what I was going to ask. Did you notice that what they've prefaced
You got to wear gloves.
is that you have to wear gloves to handle this device because it creates an unbearable heat that burns your hands if you hold the lightsaber.
It's so funny.
And the metal, I guess, gets hot.
Which
you
they
probably wear
don't.
some gloves.
Now that's only addressed in the second film.
Second film.
They use these swords in the first film.
one, yeah.
Never mention that these swords. Oh well, this is how it's different than lightsabers. You see, you can only hold it if
You wrap some cloth around your hand. Did you see that?
Yep.
She just wrapped some cloth.
and apparently it's
Just any
fine.
cloth.
Huh.
It was like a shirt. She tears a shirt and wraps it around, and that's somehow
Y'all,
fine.
like ever cooking?
You just
And-
grab it with your shirt.
No. You grab it like with like a little towel, and you're like, ah, damn,
Yeah,
that's still
that's too
hot.
much.
Like, yeah.
Yes, it doesn't. It's not a permanent barrier of heat. It's
Mhm.
just
For a laser sword.
oh my goodness. I can't with that.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, the whole thing. And like, we haven't even talked about the dialogue.
Let's
The words that
talk
they
about the
say-
dialogue.
The words that they say to each other are some of the dumbest words I've ever heard. And that's the part that really hurt me.
That's farmer
I just-
speak, bro. Watch your
It
mouth.
was not
Yeah, that's how we
farmer speak.
talk.
I've heard you speak. You're far more
When I'm
intelligent.
cutting grain, I use non-regional
It was just
Shakespearean English.
So
Yeah.
brutal, man. Like,
Oh.
you know what it reminds me of? Like, okay, so I remember hearing this one story of Neil Brennan and Dave Chappelle with that movie Half Baked.
Oh yeah.
So Dave Chappelle sold this movie idea of them creating a movie called Half Baked and didn't tell Neil Brennan. And he said he had mentioned to him that you're going to get a call. Just say that we're working on it and like we're doing a movie or something like that. And then like they had to write it to pitch it right away because like he had done this thing, told them that they were going to do this like 6 months previous, and then the deadline just happened
No shit.
because like and Neil Brennan didn't know any of this. And it was all of a sudden, okay, I guess we got to make a movie. And that's what this all reminds me of, where it's just like, oh shit, yeah, I did say I was going to do that big thing. Oh
See-
no, right?
Which is-
grain farmers and then light swords and
Which is why this is interesting because there were rumors that this was originally a Star Wars original thing, but the way he's told this story is he was pitching it to Netflix like a heavy metal movie. So like
Interesting.
somewhere along the line, this
They
was
trying to like blend the two.
maybe it was like
Like a-
adapt a Star Wars story to be a little bit more. Oh, let's just do this like heavy metal,
Interesting.
and we'll add because like it is so funny that they try to do like you said these like oh we'll make the farmers Dutch people.
Mhm.
That's what we'll do. We'll give them like a Dutch accent, and that'll be normal because that's what a farm is.
that's what farms are.
And I'm like, why did you not just? This is another thing in Star Wars as well, where like it seems like the Republic people all have English accents of some sort, but when you go to a different planet, they're like, "Hi, I'm Luke Skywalker, and I talk like this."
No.
It's they're making these choices, but they don't necessarily have to because we wouldn't necessarily need the space farm to be Dutch,
Mhm.
and we don't necessarily need the bad guys to be
Soviet or
Russian
something.
military. We don't necessarily need to walk into a Western cantina for some reason to try to find a
Which you
reverse
do
Han
if
Solo.
if you're watching Star Wars, being like, yeah, I need to do this exact thing.
Wasn't there a really famous male actor in the second movie, like right in the beginning too?
Charlie Hunnam. Hunnam?
No, that was the first movie.
First movie.
He dies in the first
In
Oh,
the
you're talking
second
second
one,
movie?
Spoilers.
there's a guy that looks like Owen Wilson meets someone else. The guy that does the
Leonardo
Oh, he looks
DiCaprio?
like Matthew
No,
McConaughey?
yeah, Matthew McConaughey and Owen Wilson. There's a guy that looks like him, and I'm pretty sure he's pretty famous.
He's pretty
But he only
famous.
has like 3 minutes.
Was he on the good side or the bad side?
I think he was just like a civilian.
Interesting.
I'll have to rewatch it.
Just hanging
I'm
out.
not gonna rewatch.
I'm gonna have to go for a third round. I gotta do a third round.
y'all, Third
It's
round.
very important to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I think that was the weird part is I was excited because this cast was not huge. There was a lot of people that I liked, like okay, so Ray from Justice League, he played Cyborg, is in this movie. He's in movie 1. And
What?
yes, he okay, so you know the I'm gonna have a hard time with these names. I should have
Y'all
thought
better
this
watch
better.
this movie at home, y'all.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
I think I tried to wipe it from my mind.
There is and I kid you not, and again, this is the unbearable amount of Star Wars reflections here that are just incredibly derivative. But the Rebels, they're literally called the Rebels, are led by a brother and sister twin team.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is Ray. And Ray is amazing. I think he's an awesome actor. And he is, again, he plays the gentleman who sacrifices himself by stabbing a ship. Do you remember him stabbing a ship with a spear?
That was
in slow motion.
That wasn't Cyborg.
That was Cyborg. And you didn't recognize him because he puts on a complete.
Movie, so I'm going to trust his opinion.
He's very good.
He's watched it multiple times. So.
I'm now an expert on a thing I should never have become an expert on.
That's okay.
It's very sad.
Hey man, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, let's do it. I got hot takes about this. And I'm gonna.
That's what we're doing.
But he's actually good. He's actually good, and they use him for the last bit of the first movie, and he's gone. They just keep using really good people. Charlie Hunnam was the same thing. He's amazing, and they use him for a very short amount of time. They never really delve into it. All the characters that you're wishing that you'd hear more about, you do not. All the people that you want to root for do not have a great arc.
They leave.
And they leave. And it's very hard. And the villains are also very hard to understand what's going on with their motivation, because what's happened with your main characters was unrelated to the villain. He came in after all that had happened, and this big bad boss that we're supposed to be like terribly afraid of, like the emperor of the Star Wars universe. First film, they finally cut to him at the very end of the last bit of the scene, and you're like, who's this actor? I don't know. And he isn't scary. He hasn't proved himself to do anything terrifying in any of the, even in the second movie, there's absolutely nothing besides betraying the king.
Yeah, but
I also...
That's hard.
In the second one, I like how they brought back Bionic Barry. We can rebuild him.
Put him in his pod.
Put him in the pot of goo. Put him in the thing. And there's so many things that I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm very sad they did this, including the fact that they've made death irrelevant.
Yeah.
No, they cut off his head. That's fine.
And then they just brought him back.
Good. No, the second one.
Second one.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
But it's like,
it's forgettable.
Just for anyone who doesn't realize yet, there's also magic in this movie. Magic exists.
Yep.
Because the little girl has the ability to
because they had the Frozen
resurrect
scene. I
people.
forgot about that.
That's right. There is a scene from Frozen.
Yeah. See? I got you, bro.
They show her on camera with a dead bird, and then she brings it back to life with a magical glow, and then she throws it away. So anyway, she's Elsa. Exactly.
Or whatever.
And she's Elsa. Apparently, that's how they tie together. It's a shared universe. And they basically murder this girl in the second movie, and you see it happen. It's terrifying.
There was no real reason for that.
No, there's no reason for that.
Was it because she was magic?
They were trying to Russia the monarchs of, which is basically kill the whole royal family. And basically they tell the hero to murder the child whom she loves and has said that, and kills the girl. And then she dissipates in a magical glow. And that was off-putting for me as well. But then at the very last bit, spoiler alert, at the very last moment of the last film, they say, hey, the princess is alive. We got to go find her.
Right.
There's
See, it's coming back.
been no reason why she would have survived a gunshot wound. There's been no, there was this clip where we show, it's all of these things, all the important information of the film is all done in exposition, and it's done very quickly where a character tells you what happened. And it's, and this is the visual guy doing like so many exposition dumps with garbage that I'm like, I just don't understand. You could have shown this story. There's the woman with the two glowing swords who lost her children. She
chopped her arm off. That one. Yeah.
She chopped her own arms off.
Yep. Spoiler alert.
Pretty
Watch the
hardcore.
movie, or don't.
Yeah. Although I think it's kind of interesting to, if you chopped one arm off and then you put a robot hand on, how do you do the second? I guess you could.
Maybe.
But like her whole thing has been, my children died, I'm avenging my children. Second movie comes and they cut to her scene and you're like, oh man, we're going to see what happened to her kids. She just stumbles upon her kids who have been killed.
Yeah.
We don't see any
No lead up, no nothing.
No, and then she's like, and then I dug up these swords for some reason.
Some swords.
And that's it. You had this main character who we're supposed to care about when she sacrifices herself.
All right.
There's no, and you forgot that because there is no. Usually, it's like, okay, stick to a couple main characters. This is that problem with an Avengers storyline. Too many characters, and it's hard to follow what everybody does or care about them when they make a move of significance.
It's not. You just take out all the farming.
Just take out all the farming.
You have so much time then.
That's what Avengers was lacking, was a sense of farming.
Like, you either do a movie on farming or you don't.
Yeah, and you either do a space film or you don't, or you do a heavy metal film and you don't. But there's lots of things here that are like, there's too many things, there's too many characters, there's not enough visuals showing the thing that you're showing us, and it's mysteriously impossible how this film is as bad as it is from watching it.
Okay. I can show you a route to redemption.
A route to redemption. Show us how this franchise can redeem itself.
No, this franchise gets left in where it should be.
On the editing floor.
In the back of the farm, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that game? We're talking about developing IP and other things.
Yes.
Do you remember that game where Killzone?
Killzone. I remember Killzone.
Okay. So
yes.
That has a way better space battle story arc thing. Make that.
And the bad guys are basically Soviets as well.
Exactly. If you want to play into the bag, blah, 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 and like Soviet attack each other and all that stuff,
sure.
Just do that.
Yes.
Make that into a movie way better than this.
100%.
And like...
Is Zack Snyder still...
Yeah, do it. Because his visual interpretation of that whole world would be amazing.
Okay.
Well, have you gentlemen watched Fallout at all?
No, I'm going to start though. I'm about to start.
That was good.
Talk about... Okay, so this, not to give anything away on this one. Fallout is honestly a much more difficult IP to adapt. Okay. It's bizarre, it's really funny, it's dark, it's retro, it's futuristic. It's a very hard line to walk. They do it brilliantly in that show.
Interesting.
And they found a way to keep you engaged in the characters in a proper way that you should. They take the IP, they're respectful to things that are in it. They managed to do it flawlessly. And arguably, it's a way less complicated story arc to follow. It's very easy as a viewer to kind of watch what everyone's doing, even though you don't understand this world that you're thrown into. They do a great job, and they don't do it with exposition dumps. It is fantastic.
I'm going to start watching it. So.
Really good. That would be a really good palate adjustment from what you just watched.
Eh? Okay.
But this one is it's very difficult because it's all the areas of Kevin was talking about the scripting. Scripting is not good. The visuals are confusing at best. The editing is a mess. There's no one to root for almost, and the story is so. It's like they took two movies out of what they could have done in one film very easily with half the cast, and just simplifying a lot of things. And and that's the thing is Zach is so much better than whatever happened there that I became fascinated with what could have possibly happened here. And I think in a lot of ways that people thought that with the Justice League as well when that movie came out is what happened here, like what went down.
See, like the way that I look at it is like, so say you've got like a picture that you're looking at, right? And the person that's viewing the picture is only allowed to see a little portion of it. The person that drew it has the context of everything that's around the outside of the portion. And I feel like that's what this movie is. It's like, hey, why is this square blue? Oh, because that's the sky. He knows that that's the sky, but the person looking at it doesn't know what the hell he's looking at. It's just a piece of blue.
I see what you're saying.
And that's what this story feels like to me, where it's just like, oh yeah, because of this, and this. And it's like, yeah, but the person who's the layman who's coming into the movie has no idea what you're talking about in the way that you've already thought out all these other things. And you have not done a good job of leading them to that understanding themselves. And it's like, then all of a sudden stuff just happens and you're like, I don't get what's this? And then I'm sure he knows. I'm sure he has an understanding of like, oh, because of this thing in the wars of this time and blah, blah, blah. Like
he knows the backstory.
But he has not explained, he hasn't led anybody to the water. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That actually makes a lot of sense with the way he starts a film, because he's actually known in the industry as being one of the few directors who draws relentlessly. Like he makes storyboards from handwritten sketches, and he has like when he brings an actor in, he'll show them all these storyboards across a big wall because he's drawn like a cartoon version of what's going to happen and how these worlds are going to come up. Cool. And I think it's that thing of like, I think you're right. We're not being explained properly in some ways. I think you're right. You start with the keyhole. and you make like, oh, this is a farmscape with some sort of farmer plowing with a horse, but there's like Saturn behind it and like a couple moons.
Yeah, it's
and
a
isn't
very
that cool?
visual.
Yeah, and that's where you're starting from, and so you've not connected those boring infrastructural roads that lead me to understand. Like, I get that the picture is cool, but when you kind of bring it together and you tell this story with the way you are, it is not.
Think about like 300. Very easily told story. Very easily told story. Just like, this guy's coming to invade the land. These people are stubborn and shredded. So they're going to go and do this thing. Like, the story is very simple to invest in, because it's like, okay, these people are getting wronged, obviously. And they're going to be a type of character that we would want to be admiring. Someone that was willing to self-sacrifice themselves for someone that is innocent. And, you know, like, okay, these are all good things. And then that's a simple story to tell. Whereas this whole thing, not a simple story to tell. In fact, you're saying all these reasons as to why pretty much every character that we're supposed to feel good about is bad in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
They've done something wrong. There's some sort of blah, 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 blah. And this is supposed to be redemption by them injecting themselves into a situation that is technically going to get these people killed if it doesn't go absolutely perfectly by one random woman doing something. And it's just one of those, like, it's not a simple story by any stretch. Star Wars, pretty simple. Bad guys, good guys, destroy planets. Bad. People want not bad guys. Like, it's pretty straightforward. There's no rebel force. There's no like, yes, there is a rebel force, but they don't come around until you just kind of happen to
and it's
happen.
like out of desperation, and
after the main thing's been won.
It's a really like poorly told story of like, okay, well, there's this good king, and then he gets double crossed because he's got a magic daughter. So by this guy, but yet there's still like some sort of army that is going throughout the universe killing other armies. I love this
segment, y'all. I love
and
this.
then like there's a robot army, I guess, at some point in time that are
and they feel compassion, sort of.
They're invulnerable to lasers, I guess, and yet all of our tanks aren't.
Wait, like, he gets that headshot of the dude like holding him hostage from like sideways.
That was really cool. A really cool moment.
Yep.
Not a story.
Yep.
I'm with you. Make the tanks out of the things you make the robots out of, please.
Or like a breastplate.
Even a breastplate would be helpful.
It can't be that heavy.
I want that kind of bulletproof vest.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just like, I think the story thing is like his ability to communicate things always has this extra background knowledge that he has, which I get. But like, the whole job of being a storyteller is to bring someone into your knowledge. Right? Like, not just give them chips to eat. It's like, okay, you can look at all these visuals and that's all really cool, but if you don't have a solid story like a Frank Miller one, or adapting another IP that has a good story, it's like, okay, well.
And there's so many moments where there is literally a cantina bar moment. So in Star Wars, we have Luke and Obi-Wan looking to try to find someone who can help pilot them out of the system. And they go into a cantina bar. It's a bar, and we have a Western shootout. What happens in this film? They go off a lead into a Western-style cantina bar where apparently orcs are walking by for some reason. Don't know why they showed up, but they did. Yes. And they go into the cantina bar, and again, it's almost shot frame by frame like it was the cantina bar scene. Here's a weird thing. Here's a weird alien. Didn't we do this with makeup? And then we find reverse Han Solo, and he turns out to be the guy who's like, I'm like, already in the first like introduction to this, couldn't you just have not made it like a bar? Anything else would have been fine. I would have tried to look past it.
He's going to be playing Chris.
He's helping underprivileged youth with like a basketball camp. And he's a good guy at heart. Yeah. That's where all the traitorous Han Solos live.
Exactly.
I would have been more interested in that backstory. But it's just one of those things where it's like, you could have avoided all of this. This is not a necessary scene. You could just meet him wherever. But he also turns out not to be a pivotal character in any way, shape, or form.
Nope.
And no idea why. They just, and I don't even know what attracted Charlie to this project, because Charlie is a pretty selective actor. Like, he's turned down.
Thomas.
Oh,
That's what attracted
Comments.
him.
He's turned down so many
Netflix
things.
comments.
Yeah.
Well, you know how there's guys in the industry like Ryan Gosling or Brad Pitt or they're the guys that every studio comes to you when you have a Marvel project.
Cuba
Like
Gooding Jr.
always go to Cuba. Never miss Cuba. But they always go to them and they say no, because Leonardo DiCaprio is another one. They always say no because they pick projects that are a little smarter, that have longevity, that aren't going to be the vanity projects that create a lot of cash right away, but they create opportunities for me to win an Oscar down the road. Don't do this thing. And he was offered, I believe, Green Arrow. And he was like, nope, I don't like it. I don't think there's anything interesting about me shooting.
One.
He liked this one.
Huh.
And why was that?
So
and
we're missing something.
I think Zach's a visual guy. He shows you this wonderful world he's created, and you
into
don't see the derivative thing right away from that
like,
stuff.
Charlie tends to kind of work with directors, right? Like
Yes.
he loves
Guy Ritchie.
and like I get it. I think Zack Snyder kind of brings around a similar like bro-ness of like, yeah, I hang out with that dude for a while.
Yeah.
But he's a little bit of a miss on this one.
This one's a little bit of a swing and a miss. He tried.
Yeah.
And this is, again, respectfully, I love Zack Snyder. I would be a huge advocate for Zack. I think Man of Steel is one of my favorite superhero movies that they've adapted.
The house, haven't we? Isn't the house in Alberta?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The Superman house?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, he took me to the house once. So
I love that. And it's those kind of real, like he has a way of going, well, what looks like Kansas. And it's like, okay, well, Alberta kind of looks like Kansas. In this movie, I believe they planted wheat now you can fact check me on this, but I'm pretty sure what they did.
Saturn, they planted some wheat. We need to get this frame by frame.
The Rebel Moon.
Well, grain doesn't really grow in a mountainous area.
Mm-hmm.
So they picked, I think it was somewhere in Utah, and planted artificial like grain, like to make it look like, oh, this is so alien and different because there's mountains and there's grain or something like that. But they actually did it. And I was like, all these things with CGI that you're doing, and that's what you picked to stay grounded was the wheat?
Yeah.
You couldn't have just gone shot in place with the wheat.
There's something going on with
pivotal.
wheat.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's got to be something
There's a
more about
conspiracy.
these wheats.
Everything is about the wheat. It all comes down to the wheat.
You bake a super bread and you travel through space.
Okay, man,
really
I'm
bad.
over the movie. Anything else you guys want to talk about today?
I'm just so mad.
Kevin just never wants to talk about this film ever again.
I'm so angry.
I appreciated that. That was a lot of fun, though.
Oh yeah.
Thank you guys for putting yourselves through that and watching it. It means a lot to me as a friend that
Of
you'd
course, bro.
go
Oh,
through
it's
a movie
funny.
like that with me.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I had a
I'll
blast.
watch these things.
Send us
They're
some
very
all the
funny.
time.
Happily.
Yeah.
Well, I watched one last night that was not awesome.
What'd you watch?
Watched the new Planet of the Apes.
Oh, I've heard. Yeah. Okay, I'll give that one a watch.
How's that? I have not seen it.
Don't pay to go to the movie.
Okay.
$50 that cost me.
Comment, like, subscribe, y'all. Share with your friends. We need it desperately. Kevin spent $50 on this movie.
Reimburse this guy.
Yeah, $50 for some sadness. Yeah, actually, it was better than Rebel Moon. I'll say that.
Did anyone scream, "You damn dirty apes"
No.
in this film? No.
That'd have been pretty funny.
The line in this one, that line in this one is shit. That's the line. That's the laugh line or the crazy line of the
Charlton
movie.
Heston is rolling over in his grave right now.
But I mean, again, I'll watch that over Rebel Moon any day.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give it a try. Well, Mike, I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. All y'all at home hanging out with us. Appreciate y'all. Don't forget you can rate us on Spotify if you're checking out the Spotify. And one of these days, we're going to have a music segment that Mike put together too. My headphone amp died, so we'll fix that. And anything else you guys want to add? I'll have everyone's Instagrams and everything in the description box.
Sounds wonderful.
Below. Everyone else, anything else?
Nope.
Perfect.
Okay.
Life is go.
See you on the next one. Thank you, boys.